Hello everyone, my name is Disco. Today we're talking about democratic school.
Democratic school is a type of school where students have the freedom of choice on what is best for them to learn. It has a democratic structure for students to explore their interests, govern themselves, and live in a community that solves conflicts together. The goal is for them to become an empathic and self-responsible citizen. In short, this is a type of school for students to basically do whatever they want. Through self-discovery, they learn how to value their life, to work with one another as a community using their own learning styles. Democratic schools use the similar framework to constructivism and humanism. They focus on autonomy, voluntary learning instead of mandatory, equality, empathy, group decision-making, and treating one another as a human being. There's no such thing as a hierarchy in a system where the people at the bottom have to work for and satisfy the people on top of them. In democratic schools, teachers and students get to sit together, manage and run the school together. Students have the safe space to use their voices to modify school rules, policies, or routines. In extreme cases, students get to decide whether a teacher is good enough to stay in their school any longer.
So what made me into this type of school? Let's see.
This was me when I was young. I was born in a typical Chinese family, getting traditional Chinese conservative education. My grade was not ideal in my Chinese schools, as for a long time I was confused what were these places I was forcefully dragged into. A lot of things had happened, but overall, the whole vibe I got from my Chinese schools can be described as, do what I say or you will be punished. Every day we were trapped in school for nearly 10 hours, and when we finally got home, there was nothing but 3 hours of homework left for us to do. Most of the teachers will only chill when we reached their satisfaction, otherwise prepare to get yelled at every single day, so much that you will question your existence. And physical violence can sometimes be involved as well. Have I ever been beaten by my parents? Yes. Was there blood? Yes. Am I mad at them? Honestly, not really, as I know it's part of the Asian culture and they were just trying to fit in the mainstream on what the best way is to educate their child. But I'll be completely, from the deepest of my heart, honest with you. If I say I'm actually tilted that they did this to me, people will call me a brat who is rude and impolite and uneducated and disloyal, as I can't even be nice to my own family. So, what do you want me to say?
Now, was I rushing or was I dragging? Count again.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Rushing or dragging?
Rushing.
So you do know the difference.
So ever since I was a kid, I have absolutely refused to become an educator. I've never wanted to be a teacher because I don't want to be someone like those kind of people. Hell no. Fortunately, my high school is a Canadian high school. It's way much better. I got to choose my own courses, make my own films, join different kinds of clubs, show off my personalities, etc. I had a blast in that high school, to be honest. But still, when we look at the traditional education globally, there's still some kind of lack of flexibility, autonomy, and I still think we need a better and holistic education system to teach the young people.
Then I got into this democratic school, which in my opinion is unironically what we need more of in global education. When I look at my childhood friends or the people I grew up with, many of them were trained in the school to become a working machine. We were taught to have good grades in school so that we can go to a good college, then we can have a decent job with a decent salary, and then eventually a decent life. But as a matter of fact, they don't know what they want or who they are living for. Maybe just for their teachers, their parents, or their bosses who are constantly telling them what to do. Or maybe having a decent life as a working machine is their dream, who knows. Today, however, we have such a developed world. Everything is digital, AI is out of control. All those desires to keep things going are coming from those people on top. Ask yourself, do I really want to keep it going? From my perspective, the age of training young people to be working machines should be over forever ago. Now it's time to actually ask yourself, what is my dream? What is my passion? Who do I want to become when I grow up? What keeps me alive? We need to start finding our life goals, life paths. They cannot be the same, as we cannot all become the person our teachers want us to be.
Personally, I believe every student has the right to not listen to the teacher. This might be controversial, but when we look at the hindsight, everybody has done their jobs. Maybe for parents, things might be a little bit serious, but for teachers, I think teachers' job is to guide their students to their goal, to their success, based on their knowledge and life experiences. It's not about manipulating the people that are smaller than you. In my opinion, I think teachers are not any better than their students because they just lived longer and learned a lot of lessons already in their life and had more experiences. That's about it. And those experiences can inspire those young people to achieve their goals. Those experiences cannot be like a structured model for the next generations to follow along. Like I have been through World War II. This is just a hypothetical example. My father was harmed by the Germans, so I think Germans are bad people. I'm gonna teach my son not to trust Germans. No, this is outdated information. Of course, a lot of things have happened in the history of mankind and everybody has their own memories and experiences, but you have to look at the things nowadays and use your own judgment, like what is good and what is bad. You have to move on with the society, with other people. If you think that example is too extreme, that was exactly what happened to me when I was in elementary school. I was taught that Japanese people were a bunch of evil monsters for what they did to our country before. But when I traveled to Japan, it's what they taught me was completely nonsense. Japan nowadays might have one of the nicest and sweetest people I've ever met.
Is knowing how to set a broken bone or how to treat a severe burn ridiculous? Knowing how to navigate by the stars in total darkness, that's ridiculous. How to identify edible plants, how to make clothes from animal skins, how to survive in the forest with nothing but a knife. They have the cardiovascular and muscular endurance levels of elite athletes.
Who cares? They're children. They need to go to school. They need to learn about the world.
Taking a look at this whole democratic school thing, you might be thinking, it's a good concept, but so unrealistic. The drawback of this type of school is as obvious as its strengths, which is freedom. When the students are too free, it's so easy for the school environment to get chaotic. Everyone would be just playing around and messing with each other. By using our traditional thinking, if the academic performance is bad, there is no point for the school to exist anymore. When I showed this project to my mom, who is a genuine audience to this, her first reaction was like, how do those schools determine whether a student is good enough to graduate, since their study paths are so different from each other? I know, all these make democratic schools sound just like a pipe dream. That's why I wanted to take some actions to show you what it really looks like. To be fair, I also didn't hear about this type of school at all in my 25 years of life until I started looking for volunteer jobs in the world. I was lucky enough to visit a democratic school located in Sofia, Bulgaria, as a volunteer back in 2024. My first impression about that place was like, wait, this is a school? The campus was just a small mansion. From the outside, it made me think I was entering someone's home. Inside the mansion, it looked pretty much like a family house, but with lots of educational signs and props. Their daily life was pretty chill. The older teenage students tend to hang around and find interesting things to do with their friends throughout the day, while the younger ones were mostly accompanied by an adult teacher as they explore their interests. There was no actual classroom. When they want to learn something in a group, they will gather around and find a room by themselves. Each week, everyone will gather for a meeting. They discussed what's been happening and solved a bunch of issues together. Sometimes, they organize school trips and big projects if enough people are interested in participating. I was witnessing them finishing off a film project when I was there. It was a sculpture stop motion / music video that had a collab with an actual Bulgarian rock band, and it was surprisingly well done. From the shooting to the editing, it was made by very passionate and dedicated students. Even I could not have done this professionally with my film degree. Due to copyright issue, I cannot show the video here, but here are some screenshots. So you might be asking, students are so free here, don't they have rules? Of course they do. The younger kids tend to concentrate on discipline, but not as hardcore as students from traditional schools. One mistake I made was playing iPad games in front of them, as it was sort of forbidden for them to get into electronic devices during the school time. The older ones are actually very free, and the rules are pretty much about common sense. I remember the biggest rule over there appeared to be absolutely no physical or verbal violence, making it a chill and safe community to learn from each other. This is why I started this project. I want to show the world that there is this type of school that might be good as future education. I think they deserve far more attention, even though I think the majority will still disagree on their curriculum. Let's look at some brief history. The very first democratic school was built over a century ago. The school is named Summerhill High School, located in the small town of Leiston in United Kingdom. The school wanted to practice extreme student-centered learning, prioritizing students' well-being, emotional, and social development. This unusual idea slowly expanded across Europe, Middle East, and some other parts of the world, especially when a counterculture movement happened in the 60s, where many people wanted schools to be more self-governing instead of being manipulated by traditional values or the government. This movement collapsed at the end due to the rise of conservatism, but the idea of free learning survived in a corner of every region. The term democratic school was actually established in Israel in 1992, where they held the first ever significant conference of EUDEC. EUDEC, known as European Democratic Education Community, is an umbrella organization established in 2008 under International Democratic Education Conference, which is usually known as EUDEC. EUDEC is essentially an event organization. They hold this conference every year where they gather teachers, staff, and students of democratic schools from all over the world to celebrate together, support each other, and spread ideas to other folks. And it has 3 principles.
1. Firm foundations in equality and shared responsibility. 2. Collective decision-making among all members. And 3. Self-directed learning and the choice of discovery.
When I attended the EUDEC this year in Belgium, I met a lot of sweet and passionate people. They are creative and love to design their own learning styles, curriculum, anything they think is the best for their life. There were some big boards of everyday schedules for anyone to fill out and host their own session. There were a lot of culture exchange, talent showcases, as well as deep discussion circles to bring everyone all together and discover life values, interests, and possible reform in future education. Everyone was very happy that they ended up in this place, and so was I.
Then you have math till 8:45, then you have German till 9:30, then you have a little break, and then you have sport, 2 hours, whatever, and then you can go home, do your homework, and day is over. It doesn't work like this in a democratic school, as you could just see here. Every individual has their own walk through the day. So actually, if you want me to explain you how a democratic school works, it means I take a democratic school with 60 kids and I'm telling you 60 stories to just explain one day.
At that point, I was thinking, education is not just about learning anymore. It's a journey of constant self-discovery from various life experiences and social linkage. When I was there, one of my roommates was a founder of his own democratic school, but he told me that he was not identified as the principal, because in his school, everyone, every teacher and student is a principal, as they learn from each other and work together to make the school the way it needs to be. Community is important. That is why events like this conference are very valuable, not only for democratic education, but also for traditional educators to acknowledge the power and the magic this niche education can produce. Additionally, in order to explore this franchise closer to where we are, I came back to Canada and visited an alternative school, the Pacific School of Innovation and Inquiry, usually known as PSII, in Victoria. This school uses a similar framework as constructivism as democratic education, but most importantly, the staff has worked hard to have this school approved by the BC Education Department, meaning the students who graduate from the school are qualified to have an official diploma and move on to their colleges. The school is small, with only around 11 staff teachers. The students are chill, free to create their own schedule of the day, host classes or events, and choose to learn what they want. Just like the democratic school in Sofia, I have attended several sections, mostly art, because that is my thing. And not gonna lie, I had a lot of fun. The teachers were patient and incredible. Everyone has space to explore the content the way they want, and they are on their own pace. Nothing feels like a competition, so every student can enjoy their study journey. What's really different is that they are definitely more academic heavy. Since teachers need to help their students to get prepared for college, there are various course content and subjects that they need to go through. There is this balance between freedom and academic responsibility, which I found this school did a fantastic job at. Besides, every student can choose to attend any class they want on the schedule. Most of the time, they were sitting with their friend group and just chilling. However, I came across a bunch of students saying they're busy working on their homework or paper or whatever is important for them. That's when I realized, wow, they are actually proactive to lock in their schoolwork, even without any mandatory classes or instruction. To say the least, PSII is exactly the middle ground I have imagined between democratic schools and traditional schools. Overall, these two experiences taught me plenty of stuff, and I can yap about it for ages. But right now, let's move on to something bigger. Let's have a conversation with these people to really dive deep into this democratic education and see what is really in their mind. And hopefully, it will make you learn about this topic a lot better.
My name is Mo Zimmerberg, and for 32 years, I worked at the Tutorial School, which is a democratic school in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
So my name is Margot Bruins, and I'm from the Netherlands. And for 23 years now, I am a staff member at a democratic school. I founded one, I stopped that one, but I continued into the direction of democratic school that I'm at. Now I'm almost retiring, and I'm really happy that I did the path of democratic education, because I really want people to be free. And when you're free, you feel you are personally responsible for your life.
So I'm Krysia, and I finished democratic school 1 year ago. I went to Bullerbyn, which is in Warsaw, under Warsaw in Poland. And I've been there for 2 years. And right now I'm a university student. And yeah.
My name is Jessica Asp, and I'm a co-principal at Pacific School of Innovation and Inquiry. So we're a small independent grade 9 through 12 school that uses inquiry-based learning as the structure that we use to support students.
What is your definition of democratic school?
In 2003, we tried to define democratic education. And not only couldn't we agree, but people ended up yelling at each other. Then in 2005, in Berlin, we came up with a definition for democratic education. It's something like the student gets to choose who they learn with, where they learn, how they learn, what they learn, and that they have some decision-making power in the running of the school. something like that. It's posted on a website somewhere. But then 3 years later, we decided it would be better not to have a definition at all, so that we could include more schools within the framework of democratic schools. So we really don't have a definition right now. That every democratic school is different.
Okay.
Everybody defines what it is, and everybody does different practices. Back in 1992, we discovered about Sudbury Valley School in Framingham, Massachusetts. And the thing that really impressed my partner at the time, he founded the school in 1982, but it was non-compulsory, but it was, we still had a curriculum. And then in 1992, he discovered Sudbury Valley School, and he said that they'd been getting kids into college without any grades and any transcripts, and that's what he wanted to do his whole life. I was very skeptical, but I decided to go along with it. So we started with the Sudbury Valley model, and then I made a few changes. One change was that instead of using voting for decision making, I decided to use consensus process, which is, I have to say as an aside, is very different. Our definition of consensus process is very different than the definition that sociocracy people use. In their terminology, what we do is consent, but we call it consensus process. And the reason I prefer that over voting is that it really, it kind of forces people to be more cooperative, because it doesn't work unless people are being cooperative. Voting works better in a contentious situation. And for consensus process to work well, people need to cooperate. So it fosters an environment of cooperation. The other big change that we did is the Sudbury Valley has their Justice Committee, and they have a rotating membership, like kind of like jury duty, there where everybody has to join the Justice Committee. We changed the name to the Grievance Committee. We use restorative justice. And then we're a very, very small school, so instead of forcing all the students to take part in the grievance committee, it's more about students that want to take part in it. And there have been a few other changes over the years, because we've been running for so long. We created a whole graduation process that I think is, we started with Sudbury Valley ideas, and then we tweaked it. That's basically what we did, for a lot of things in our school.
For me, it's a community of students and staff together, and you create together a nice environment, safe environment, with also good risky stuff in it, that you really become yourself. We are always working for a diploma or towards something into the future. But for me, democratic school is that you work towards yourself, and then you make connection in the world. In a democratic school, you are also in service for the organization. So that's for me also very important. You do your work, you are free to do and learn whatever you want, and you are in service for the school. Even if it's a little bit, I think that's very important. Especially for students who step in a little bit later in democratic education. You really have to rewind of all the indoctrinations, and oh my God, also the parents, we are so indoctrinated about what you should become, what you should do, how to behave, and people lose themselves, so you have to find yourself. So doing nothing is very important.
For me, it's like a whole new opportunity for actually everything, to open yourself and meet new people and meet new points of view and get to know not only other people but also you. For 3 days we were in a big house in which we were just, you can say, living. In the morning on Monday we had assembly in which we would talk about some stuff that we need to talk about, and we would bring up some important stuff and just discuss it and maybe do some voting if it is necessary. And later, after the assembly, the day just go on. There's like a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and between all of it, there are some workshops or just students offering maybe playing some games or just talking and just doing kind of whatever we want. And this is how the 3 days in the house went. And then on Thursday, it was a day when we would like go to Warsaw, to the capital, and do some like more cultural stuff, like going to the museum or maybe visiting some art gallery and stuff like that. And on Friday there would be also workshops, and there was also like a ceramic workshop or photography, so like more creative ones.
It's a term that I've heard but not really done a lot of research on. So when you came here, it's part of how I learned about democratic process with schools. So as an uneducated definition of democratic schools, my thoughts is that it would involve a lot of learner voice or a lot of student voice to decide what are the structures that are going to be developed for a community of learners at a school.
Why do you think it is uncommon for students to have freedom in their traditional academic learning?
Oh, because it's very scary. It's scary for parents, and it's scary for the students themselves. They often go through a period of fear. It's not unlike in Western mythology, we have the story of going through the forest with the dark forest with the wolves. So it's that kind of going through that period of fear where you don't know what you're doing, and it's very scary.
Because their parents are not free. Our world is organized throughout the ages. You can take religion, how you have to behave, you have to, and it's okay, you have to pray to God, there is somebody outside of you. It can be helpful, but I think we are so far away by all these beliefs that we don't know how to live our life.
In Poland, the system is kind of strict, and it's very hard for Polish education system to like find a new way or like open for the new ways to do something. And they also don't want to change anything. Like they don't have a need for that, and they don't really see that something is wrong, or maybe they just don't want to see it. Also, students, I guess, are not very like they don't do anything to change that. They just accept it and go with the kind of flow of the school. And so if they have some assignments, they will just do it and give it away, and that's how it goes on and on.
I think that the purpose of schools as they started, 100 years ago, was to prepare people for work. As not that didn't also contribute to an understanding of the world and an understanding of community and how to contribute, but the primary focus was really to get people ready to join the workforce, and particularly an assembly line model. So teach people how to do things, how to regurgitate or spit back or repeat what someone has already told them so that they can show competence or skill in a certain area. Part of what attracts me to working here and working in alternative models is this recognition that the school system is falling behind in a lot of ways, because it's not helping learners prepare for a world where they are creating the world around them, as opposed to just being a worker for someone else. We do a lot of work here at PSII to really encourage that learner agency and that learner choice, because if they can't practice those skills here, then it's going to be much harder to do it in other places in the world. And we know that when people take responsibility for things and think creatively about things, those are ways that they can contribute to the world as a whole. So we wouldn't want anyone to leave the school thinking that they have to fit into a system that exists already. We really want people to be leaving the school knowing that they can be agents of change and create things in their world.
By overlooking the development of world society and human mindset, do you think democratic school is a decent choice of education for future generations?
Well, I think every student is different, and not every school is going to be right for every student. So, I can't say, what's best for anybody. But that's part of the idea of democratic education, is that we're not saying what's best for the student. We're going to help the student figure out for themselves what is best for them. So, in a way, we're teaching the students to be able to figure that out. Yeah, certainly if you know what you want to do, then you can learn whatever you want to learn. But also we have a lot of students who don't know, and they never had the time to just sit and be with themselves to figure it out. And so that's a valuable service that we give to the children, is giving them a chance to just be with themselves and learn who they are.
For me, it's all about world peace. So if you are in peace with yourself, then you can have a good relationship with the other. And then you can have a good relationship dealing with the world, changing the world. But nowadays, children don't have a good relation with themselves. In fact, they don't exist, really. And they hate school, and they hate the teachers, and they blah, blah, blah. So how can we expect from those people that they really can change the world? Of course, there are people who can, but I think if you are living here, you feel free, and you feel you are personally responsible for your life, but you are living in the world. So I think that for me it's about world peace, and we need it. So for me, the future presidents of whatever country in the world will be democratic students. That are the future presidents, and I'm not kidding. It's about more from the heart. It's good that I feel that my children outgrow me. I'm happy, And normally, like how I was in school and how I was as a child with my parents, that was it was okay, but it was not an equal relationship. My parents knew it all, or my teacher knows it all. You can't, when I walk now in my school, there are students who know much more than me, or are able to do things that I cannot do. It makes me proud.
I think it makes people like really open to others, even if they don't agree with something, they will not get, like, for example, violent or something like that. They will just listen to you, maybe disagree, but will be like, okay, that's your point of view, I think the other way, which is, I think, really important to like understand each other. We do not have to like each other, or I also think that people from democratic education might be more emotionally intelligent, because we like talk about emotions and they are not skipped. Like in school, you come there just for the lessons and then you go back and you don't talk about anything. And also the relationship between students and teachers is like not very equal. Like you would not come up to your teacher and say like, hey, I'm having a bad day, can we talk like in private or something? That would be weird. That would be very, very weird. And in democratic education, it is totally normal, and it's like friends in different age. That's it.
Yeah, I do. So because we don't focus on assessing the information that someone knows, we really focus on assessing competency. So creative and critical thinking, information and media literacy, cultural awareness and understanding, mathematical literacy, systems thinking, we call it ecological literacy. Collaboration and leadership is huge. personal planning and responsibility, and then also like the communicating, so reading, writing, speaking, listening. Using those umbrellas of competency allow people to work with information and build skill in working with information, as opposed to just what is the information. It's part of why we started the school. So we started the school specifically to be a model so that other people could figure out how to do this, because it's hard. It's really hard to change the systems that already exist. And so when Jeff started the school, he wanted to show people how that could happen and what would the tools that would be necessary, and also what is the impact of it on our learners, because we see it every day. We see the positive effect that it has on people now, and then also through the rest of their lives. Like, this is our 13th year, so we have 13 years of people we can track to see where they're going. So yeah, the hope is that this will be something that there is energy and resources dedicated towards making that paradigm shift, because I think it's necessary. I don't even just think it's important, I think it's necessary.
What is the biggest challenge for democratic schools at the moment?
Money. You know, if you charge too much tuition, then you limit the number of students you can have. And if you have too many students going for free, then you can't pay the teachers that much. So I think that's always been the biggest challenge. Yeah, the other route. I mean, in a lot of countries, people work to try to get the government to recognize the school so that they can get money from the government. But then, with money from the government comes the rules of the government, and that puts limits on what the school can do. It's a compromise, and some people have chosen that compromise.
The first sentence is that people give up, and then give up on their dreams. Yeah, that especially staff members and parents, that they are willingly to unlearn their shit. That's the biggest challenge. You have to be, sometimes living free is not comfortable, because we have a world where people know what is normal, and we do something different. And
For new students, that they are just scared of how the education is gonna look. Like, they probably, when they come to the democratic school, they're like, oh, there's no lessons, no classes, no teachers, let's say. And they're like scared of how are they gonna achieve the same level of, like, let's say, intelligence as the people in normal school. Actually, I was afraid, but at the same time, I didn't do anything to study or to get prepared for the exam in the first year when I was in the democratic school. And also, I needed like some time to get used to how it looks and how much freedom I have, and how to use that freedom like wisely, not to spend it on, I don't know, playing games or sitting in my room whole day. Like, I can actually do something more fun than just playing video games. Also, I don't have to study all the time as in the traditional school. Also, I think people are very, like, one of the most important thing in the democratic education, because you learn so much from them, and you, like, if not people, then you would probably not ever experience so many new things in the school. Like, just trying new things is also very important, which is so easy and possible to do it in the democratic education.
Yeah, I think there's two things. One is the need for a culture shift or a climate shift. So when learners come to this school, they're choosing to come here because they want to learn differently, but they maybe haven't necessarily let go of all the ways that they have learned to think of school and to think of themselves before they come here. So, for example, people, when they come to school here, they still think, oh, in order to do well, it must look like I'm doing homework, or I'm like miserable, or I'm not enjoying things, or I'm doing what the teacher wants me to do. And so it can take us a little while to help people really come to understand that I don't have a hidden agenda as a teacher. I don't want someone to do something that they think I want them to do. So even though people come in with the idea that, yes, this is going to be different, I don't think they necessarily know how different it is going to be. And so it takes a little bit of time to untrain people from the school model that they've been in to here. The other thing that I think is really challenging and is maybe the work of a Ministry of Education or post-secondary schools, and that is recognizing what learning looks like here if it is taken out of course-based silos. So the way that most people apply for university is through a transcript or a report card. And I often talk about how difficult it is for me as a teacher here to break apart what a learner has done in all its richness and all its fullness and all its interdisciplinarity and all the skills that someone has used, and break it into the little pieces that will allow me to fit this part of what they've done into a social studies course, and this part of what they've done into a math course, and this part of what they've done into a science course. There's an expression in English that's like, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So when you put things together, it's more than just adding all the little pieces. But in order to fit into the system, I have to take a really beautiful whole, which is what the learner has done and learned and contributed when they're here, and break it into all the little parts so that it can go into a transcript. And that doesn't do them justice. I feel like that's cheating them out of a lot of recognition for the learning that they've done. So I would really like to see that change, both from ministries of education, government, and then also post-secondaries to come up with alternative ways of assessing readiness for post-secondary or of assessing learning that breaks it out of those silos altogether.
By the way, this year I also found out the democratic school I went in Sofia is actually not approved by the education department. Okay, that's fine. Let's take it slow. Maybe letting more people see this new type of school first is a good idea. So the next thing I want to know is, what can we do to get democratic schools recognized by more educators and governments?
Money. Yeah, if we can get money to democratic schools, then, because that's always the biggest problem that democratic schools have, is, especially to pay for the building, especially if the parents didn't have to pay tuition. First, I like to use the word conventional schools and conventional values, because I think the type of school we do is more traditional from back before there was civilization, before there were cities. But with the beginning of cities, and then you have a political hierarchy, and you have an elite that you want the population to support, then you want the population to be obedient to whoever's telling them what to do. So then that's kind of, a lot of governments want the citizens to be obedient, and we're telling them, the students, you have to figure out, you have to decide what you think is okay to do and what's not okay to do. We're not going to tell you.
First, you recognize yourself. We do exist, I exist, democratic schools exist, and then step by step by step. For me, democratic schooling is also kind of slow schooling, because it's also all about relationship. So it will talk around more and more. I see it in the Netherlands. In the beginning, when we started, we had these lawsuits because the government thought your school is not a school. They even talked about child abuse because they played all day, and it was unknown. So then, but we lost the first lawsuit. But I believe in it. And I take my responsibility to continue. There is no outside force that can stop me. Yeah, until I die, but that's okay. So we continued because I believe in it, but it will be step by step. You can have big advertisement campaigns. The first time I saw something about in the Netherlands, it was at a local little newspaper, and I saw this tiny advertisement, a school where your child can do and learn when, what, how it wants by themselves. Well, this is it for my kids. You know, most people come to our school because they hear people talking about it. So it's important at a birthday party that people talk about it.
So to be able to make this change to this type of schooling so that this becomes mainstream or becomes easier, at least for people to do, it's going to need change from Ministry of Education. It's going to need change from acceptance procedures from post-secondary. It's going to need changes to the teacher education programs that universities are offering to teach teachers how to do this. It's going to need shifts in understanding of the role of school, and that's a wider societal piece that needs to happen. So there are times that I feel like we're this little island, and I don't want to be an island. I want this to be something that has the possibility to have an effect on a larger number of people than our 110 person communities.
Now you see all these democratic schools from all over the world and Canadian independent school. You know what they have in common? They are actually very, very small communities. When I was in Belgium at the EUDEC, every day all these people from the democratic schools were like, please come support us, please donate, please follow your heart and do the right things. It's like they're literally begging for support because people from the mainstream, they don't look their ways. I'm looking at you, audience. Maybe some of you might never heard about all of this before. I mean, it's just the sad truth that some unpopular opinions, they never got the attention they deserve. Of course, there are evidence of a lot of democratic schools falling apart, but there are also some cases where democratic education succeeded. So I think these are worth checking out. There's gotta be some reason why these people think this is a good idea, this is a good thing to do for the future gens. And I think we need to at least hear their voices, try to understand them so that we can offer more choices for our children, That's what I think.
However, the influence of democratic education is still pretty wide-ranged. According to the official information provided by the EUDEC website and other specific sources, democratic school is the most common in the following countries. 1. Israel, with the largest amount of democratic schools. 2. United States. 3. Netherlands. 4. Germany. 5. United Kingdom. This global range can potentially make democratic education not as isolated as it appears to be, making the EUDEC conference more like a celebration for the minorities on the educational field all around the world.
For Canada, they usually call that type of school alternative school. Unfortunately, I didn't find an actual democratic school in Canada. Even at EUDEC, I didn't meet any Canadian over there. But the independent schools in Canada, they're using the alternative program, which is similar to the democratic school models. PSII told me there's a list of independent schools. They call it the Group 4 independent school. They usually use their own curriculum. They usually go wild on the freedom part, and they are usually in rural areas instead of in the middle of the city like PSII. Those schools are typically really small, really isolated. That's how it's difficult for them to get recognized. Now I'm in Serbia. This country used to be a communist country, but right now people tend to have their own ideas. Recently, actually for a long time, they have been protesting a lot in the capital city. Point is, you see how much democracy can shift the society, no matter if it's in education or politics. And of course, this seems a little bit messy, and we want to see a community where everybody smiles and lives peacefully together. But we gotta get one thing straight. We're human beings, we have a brain, and we have a voice. And we gotta use our own judgment to decide what is good or bad for our own values, our own lives. Just like the people here. They're like, this is my home city. I have to use everything I've got to fight for a better life here at home. Right now, everybody in Serbia can vote, the economy is better, and it reconnects internationally with other countries. So overall, it's a good thing. So that we're not going to obey or follow everything blindly. Humans don't do that. Machines do. And, as I'm such a big fan of traveling the world, I was thinking this might be a good idea to talk to some teachers who work on their education more traditionally and see what they think about this democratic education. So I ended up in this random country, Lithuania, and talked to this random teacher that I have volunteered for 2 years. Let's see what she wants to say about this topic as an outsider. Let's go.
I'm here with
Aurelia. I have a language school, and what is mostly my job is to take care of summer camps during the summer, and then have a few season camps, off-season camps, which are like during other holidays, but mostly it's dealing with the summer camps for teenagers.
Have you ever heard about democratic school, and do you think this exists in Lithuania?
I'm pretty sure it does. Like, I haven't really been there or checked their website or anything, but I keep hearing people talking about democratic school, so I presume that it exists somewhere in Vilnius. I have heard of the concept as well, but yeah, I don't have any direct experience, to be honest. Yeah, they have a bit less of this kind of hierarchy.
No,
they don't do the
they
from
don't.
up down, but they kind of do it all together. This is a very nice
Yeah,
concept.
yeah.
I believe that it might be quite difficult in different cultural backgrounds to kind of implement it, to help people realize how it works, but it is a very, very attractive concept for me personally. I think that first of all we have a severe lack of that in Lithuania, to be honest, because we still have a lot based on this quite old-fashioned model where you have to have deadlines, where you have to have the stuff that you must know, and if somebody doesn't, they have bad marks, and then somehow there is this general feeling that if you don't perform well academically, that you're not a full person, that you have to prove yourself academically to be respected, at least in your teenage years, as long as you finish your education, like when you're 22. And that is a bit of a problem because I think a lot of people are just not capable to show the results that are asked from them in a particular subject, not because they're not enough or not well-rounded as a person, but just because it's not for them. Not everyone is great at stuff. Like, I'm horrible at maths, like, pathetic. Maths is not for me. It doesn't mean I cannot count money or something, but like many things that I did at school were just useless, and I still don't see why I was doing it, So I guess that more of this in our educational system would be very, very welcome at this moment and due, I think, even long overdue.
Do you think your school or your camp giving students more freedom, or you focusing more on the structure and the organization?
Good question. The school and the camps are quite separate entities, like, although it's the same company, but it's still quite a different project, so to call it. So I guess in the school it's quite hard to say because it's not like a full-time school. You go there just for English classes. So I think students, they do have quite a lot of freedom in choosing what exactly is what they want to concentrate on. So I would guess that this is quite democratic. Meanwhile, in the camps, it might be a little bit more complicated because we have large groups. We're not well trained in the demographic method, and it could be that we do lean more on a structure just to keep it like, following things, but still to compare to the other camps that we have in the market, I think we're pretty chill on the schedule and we're pretty flexible on how things are happening. We give kids a lot of possibilities to offer their input, and also I think we have this flatter hierarchy. We don't have that we are the administration, and now you are the teachers, and under that is the kids. We also have quite a lot of this, like, okay, same level things, talking to each other and not imposing, but more like discussing things, when we can. Yeah.
In democratic education, the role of the teacher is basically being a mentor who supports the students along their study journey and also to satisfy their basic needs.
Compared to the traditional value, without those hierarchy, teachers in this field might need to do a little self-sacrifice.
Well, I think the biggest reason we were able to run the school for so long is because we would pay the bills and then the staff would divvy up the money that was left over. So instead of promising a certain amount of money to the teachers, first we paid the bills and then we paid ourselves. So by doing that, I ensured that the school would survive. Because a lot of schools closed for that reason. Well, one thing I'd like to talk about is one of the things that I think we do best, which is to have the students in charge of hiring and firing. The students didn't want to have to interview every single adult that came to the school, so they asked the teachers to be like a screening committee. So then if somebody wants to teach at the school, they have to go through the staff first as a screening committee. And then if they get through that, then they can teach for 2 weeks, and then finally the students decide if they're going to be hired or not. Then the students can fire a teacher anytime of the year. They can fire a teacher, and they have. And then at the last meeting of the year, all the teachers leave the room, so it's only students at the meeting, and they decide if we have a job next year. And it's one of the best things that we do, because I'm guaranteed to have a good faculty, because anybody who's not a good teacher would get fired.
They can vote for many subjects. Sometimes it's for the teachers. Like, okay, we have this new teacher, do we want to keep it? Sometimes they can vote for that. They can vote to buy new things, also really expensive things regarding to the budget. They discuss that in that assemblies.
But still, they love their job. It's one thing that students unconditionally listen to whatever teachers say. It's another thing that students approve or deny teachers based on their judgment and take responsibility for that. At the end of the day, all human beings, no matter if you're a teacher, a parent, a president, a celebrity, you will experience the second option at some point, because you gotta make choices in your life alone.
We learn and we grow at every second of our life.
During my timing at the democratic school, I trained myself in those things. I trained myself, and I'm still learning, to come from appreciation. But that gives me a kind of neutral, loving space where things can be and can change. So I have learned so much. I've learned, and I still learn. And next year I'm retiring and I'm still learning. So yeah, I'm a happy woman.
The way that teachers in a normal school assess what people have learned is highly behavioral in terms of, can this person do this one thing? And it's also very much tied to the timeline that the teacher sets in place. So someone needs to be ready for a test by this date. Someone needs to have this turned in by this date. They should show these specific skills in this specific way. And unless the test or the essay or the presentation or whatever is set up to measure all the skills that go into that, it's a huge missed opportunity for someone to be able to, for a teacher to be able to see, this person absolutely knows how to do this. Because if they're not looking for that one thing at the time that they're assessing or evaluating, then that doesn't get captured anywhere. So I think the way that we assess and that we measure progress and learning is actually a lot more, maybe not efficient, but a lot more effective than the ways that other teachers do.
I'm pretty sure all the teachers in the world are doing what they think is the best for their students. Earlier, I mentioned humans and machines. We are educating human beings who have feelings, fears, strengths, and weaknesses. I think it's important to reconsider whether your way is the best way for them.
One of the best ways to do that is to provide space for the students to explore knowledge. Time will tell you how to create a personalized study journey for them.
It's not so much teaching subjects, it's more about holding space. So we're helping to create the container where the students can explore themselves. And we're making it a safe place for them to do that. But we're also helping them create a structure so that they can keep themselves safe and keep the school safe. So, we have a set of rules that everybody agrees to, and when there's a conflict, we have a committee that deals with the conflict to try to resolve it. You know, if somebody does something that might put the school in danger, like doing drugs or alcohol at school, then it goes to the committee, and the committee can decide. They can even decide to kick a student out of the school. Like the teachers can't kick a student out of the school. Only the committee of students can do that.
So I am here to help learners co-construct lines of inquiry. So it's not learners coming up with their own question and then going off and doing things and every once in a while asking a teacher for help. I am actually involved in all the planning and all the preparation with learners in terms of how are you going to go from this question that you have to a place where you're satisfied with how you've explored that question, whether there's an answer or not. It's like getting to a place where someone feels good about exploring that question. And one of the things that's really important to know in that model is that no one knows what they don't know. And so when a learner develops a question at first, they might not know all the ways that that question could be explored. Of course not. Even if I was exploring a question, I wouldn't know all the ways that my question could be explored either. So my job as a teacher is really to help them think about all the different ways that they could explore that question, and to help them decide which ways will be meaningful for them.
Do you think the existence of this type of school is actually a good thing for the future gens?
Definitely. I don't think that the old concept of, I don't even know what to call it, but of this kind of prescriptive education, I don't think it's going to work very well on the future generations. We already see how the kids are nowadays. They're really very well-read, meaning like, you know, the context of the world, and they have a lot of information accessible at their fingertips, and they can compare many things, and they can choose quite freely, you know, and quite bravely. So I guess to impose things in their education will be close to impossible quite soon. They know their rights, they know what they can and cannot, you know, and they ask really good questions. So I guess imposing things on them would be nearly impossible in the near future already. It could be a little bit tricky for the particular future generation to adapt this democratic learning concept, in the sense that some of our future generation, the current teenagers, they have a bit of a lack of self-expression verbally. Like they're used very much to information exchange, you know, mechanically and like via texts, via other media, but not really vocally. And this democratic learning education is based on a lot of speaking and a lot of language exchange, you know, with each other, like direct contact. So this could be a little bit new to them, but also very important. So I guess this is a good thing that it's gaining a bit of momentum, you know, but maybe that's the only thing I can think of that could be a bit tricky in the society that is really raised in an internet era, you know, and AI and things like that.
So let's go back to my ultimate question. How do students from democratic schools get qualified to finish their study level? Well, so far, PSII is the only school that takes this part really seriously and cautiously. For regular democratic schools, the qualification tends to be lower. What they focus on is something bigger, something more spiritual, and something beyond just the records on the paper. But still, how many students are happy after that?
Most of them, not all, because some students had issues that they never really dealt with. But most of the students are very, very satisfied. And I've had several students come back and say that the school saved their lives, which is, that really feels good.
Of 69 students of that survey that have been at the suburban school at least for 3 years, 0 said, I don't like my job very much, or I don't like my job. 2 said, I'm okay with my job, but I'm expecting it to become better. And 67 said, either I like my job or I like my job very much. I didn't make a comparable study with regular school students, but I'm pretty sure that this one is very exceptional. And it goes on with questions to how happy are you in your life, in your relationship, would you send your own kids to the Sudbury School, and so on. And the results are really good for the view of a democratic school.
We find that our learners do very well when they leave here and go into post-secondary environments. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, they're actually asked to think when they're here. So we've had students go into post-secondary and have had professors ask them, like, where did you go to high school? And they're asking that because the questions that our learners are asking in those university courses are of a different quality than the questions that a lot of students are asking when they come out of a different school system. Because when they come out of a different school system, it's all like, how can you tell me what I've already told you? And you come out of PSII, then it's like, what are you thinking? How are you making connections with your own experiences? How are you thinking future forward? Those kinds of skills are different, and it serves people well in post-secondary. And then, yeah, that teacher role is really important. So if I know that someone is getting ready to go to an engineering program at university, I'm going to make sure that their math skills are really strong. I'm going to make sure that they've had some experience building things in the tech space and designing and putting things together. I can tailor the way that I work with someone to prepare them for that next step. It's part of my job. So it's not just about me getting someone through a course. It's about me getting someone ready for where they want to go.
Do you think this is too extreme for the Lithuanian educational environment?
No. It is new. It is definitely going to be niche for a while, but I don't see it as too extreme. I think that is definitely doable, and that could be something that even the classical education system would be leaning on just for advice or for some kind of patterns, not to necessarily replace itself, but just to kind of learn a little bit, to lean the democratic way.
One thing that's clear is that traditional education is not going away anytime soon. It has been around for centuries, and making democratic education more towards the mainstream education flow is extremely challenging. Perhaps making it coexist with traditional education is a way to go for now, but it doesn't deny the fact I'm promoting something very controversial. Maybe I'm fooling myself. Maybe I'm not a good fit to talk about education. I'm just a guy who has ups and downs from physical and mental experiences in different types of education and wants to share what I've seen out there. I'm just a guy who adores free learning and dreams to become one of their students. One big reason is how much the schools take their students out for field trips, from sightseeing to networking with other people in the field. In fact, I discovered my first dream when my family brought me abroad for the first time to the USA. There is no chance in any forms of multiverses that my Chinese schools would do that for me. So, I wish more young people get to experience democratic learning as well. It really helped me and all the fellow students to realize what we want to do for our life. What if it doesn't work? Who cares? Because life is a journey, not a race, right? For all the future children out there, don't listen to your brains and follow your dream. For all the educators who's interested in this new franchise, please go out there and explore. Outside of the box, you might find something ridiculous or something surprising.
For the people back there, you'll never know if you never give it a try.